Hello and welcome to episode number 6 of the Let's Build Shadowgate series. Today we're going to be adding some functionality to our first hallway. That's what we did in episode number 5. We added some Boolean variables and some variables to our program that allowed our program to process what was going on the screen. We keep track of whether or not the front door was open with a true or false value and allow the user to click on the door, open it, and then enter the first hallway. What we're going to be doing in episode number 6 is real similar to what we did in number 5, except we're going to be controlling the door in the hallway rather than the front of the castle. That's also going to create a couple bugs that we'll need to address, and we'll talk about those as we get further into episode number 6. So if you haven't followed along from the very beginning, episode number 6 does assume that you've completed episodes 1 through 5. So if you haven't done that, go back and check those videos out and kind of get caught up with us. So let's go ahead and get started with episode number 6 of Let's Build Shadowgate. So here we are back in our Alice world. If we hit play, you can see where we are in the world. We still have our first screen. You press space to enter the world. And what we did last episode, we allowed the user to click on the door once to open it. And once the door is open, if they click on it again, they're entering this first hallway. There is no functionality in this hallway. The user can't click on anything that's on the screen, so that's as far as we got. And this is the screen that we'll be devoting most of our attention to today. So like we normally do, let's go over to Properties and watch all of our variables since Alice was closed since last time we filmed. You'll notice that now that we're watching the video, or now that we're watching these variables, door 1 closed is true because door 1 is in fact closed, and we're on game screen number 1. When we click on the door, that variable gets set to false, and when we enter the room, game screen goes to a value of 2. So that's where we're at. Make sure your program has that functionality, and we'll start building some of the things that we want to be able to do in this room. Now there's multiple things that I do want to do in this hallway, but the first and probably most obvious thing is give the user the ability to open this front door here. But I think that's probably what will draw most users' attention. So let's go ahead and give the user the ability to open up those doors with a click. Similar to what we did in the front of the castle, we need to get the top left coordinate. In this case, the coordinate is 221, 350 on my screen, bearing in mind that your screen will probably be different depending on your monitor. And let's get the XY coordinate of the lower right. In this case, my coordinate is 299, 511. Using those numbers, we're going to program in the functionality to allow the user to open up that door. If you go back and click on the Methods tab, you'll see that we already have the framework for what we're going to do kind of built in. In previous episodes, we've built this click handler, and the last thing we did in the last episode was we added screen handler number 2. Even though there's no instructions in screen handler number 2, it's going to be really similar to the way that screen handler number 1 works. The click handler will check to see what the game screen is. If the game screen is 1, it will run the screen 1 handler, and this is where the door and all the stuff for screen number 1 is. If the game screen equals 2, then it's going to go to the screen 2 handler. So in order to open up this door, we're going to need to add functionality to our screen 2 handler. So let's add a comment to the front of, or to the top of screen 2 handler. In screen number 1, we can see that this method handles all click activity for screen number 1, the front door. So this method will handle all click activity for screen number 2, which is the front hallway. And so there we've got our comment that will help us keep track of what's going on here. And similar to what we did in screen handler number 1, we're going to be adding kind of a large if check to see if the door has been clicked on. So we're going to grab an if block. We need to make 4 different checks, 2 for the x's and 2 for the y's. So we're going to do logic and true, logic and true, and logic and true. So this will give us 4 placeholders where we can put those x and y coordinates that we just wrote down a second ago. So So we need to do our 4 checks to see if the mouse has been clicked inside the bounding box of this door. So the numbers that I just wrote down a second ago, I need x to be greater than 221, and I need x to be less than 299. I also need y to be greater than 350, and I need y to be less than 511. These 4 numbers together constitute the xy coordinates that are inside this door. If you haven't seen this done before, if this is the first video you watched, go back and check. I think it's in episode number 3, also in the Alice tutorial series, and it will explain how this works. Since many of you have already done it, I'm going to assume that you know what this check does. But I'm going to throw a comment in here just to remind myself that this series of checks will see if the door in the center of the screen has been clicked. So now, if in the future when I come back to this I forget what all these numbers mean, I at least know that this if check is dedicated to clicking on this hallway door. Now, one of the things we did for the first door was we need a variable that keeps track on whether the door is open or closed. I did that for door 1 by having door 1 closed set to true. I'm going to recreate this for door 2. So I'm going to create a new variable. I'm going to call it door 2 closed. And it's going to be a Boolean variable set to a value of true, meaning that when we enter this room, the door is going to be closed. The door is closed is true. If the door is closed, then we want the door to open. So I'm going to drag another if check. So let's drag another if check here, put in true as our placeholder, and say, if door 2 is closed, then we want something to happen. In this case, we want the door to open. So this is where I'm going to have to import my next graphic. In order to show the door open, I'm going to have to File, Make a Billboard, and I'm going to find the directory where I downloaded the graphics pack. In this case, I'm looking for Screen 2 Door Open. And let's position this on the screen. So before we do that, let's turn off the door closed screen. And then we'll have this turn to face the camera. We'll enlarge it so that it just starts to go off the right side of the screen. Just right about there. And let's move it up so that that white box is at the very top. Doing our best to make sure that all the screens are perfectly aligned. We can definitely do that later. So we now have the screen with the door being open. Now I'm going to go to my first method and make sure that door open screen gets set to a is showing property of false over a duration of 0 seconds, so that when I start the game, that door will not be visible to the user. And hopefully at this point, everything we're doing here should seem very familiar to what we did in screen number 1. That's why we're not explaining it quite as in detail as we did in, say, episodes number 3 and 4. So if this isn't making sense and you've kind of got that big question mark over your head, why are we doing this? Go back and watch those videos because it's really a repeat of the exact same logic we used there. So at any rate, now that we have our screen imported, we're going to go here to our Screen 2 handler and get it to kind of turn on properly when the door has been clicked. I'm going to do this with another if check. So I'm going to do an if here. So if the door is clicked, then we're going to check to see if door 2 is closed. So make sure that you're doing this beneath your first if and not in this else block right here. So if the door is clicked on, then we're going to check to see if the door is closed. If the door is closed, we want to do three things all at the same time. I'm going to do this in a do together block. The first thing that needs to happen is the screen that shows the door closed has to set its is showing property to false, turning off the screen that has a closed door. And we'll do that in a duration of 0 seconds so it happens instantly. At the same time, I want this door open is showing property to be set to true over a duration of 0 seconds. And that should properly change the graphics, but I need to do one other thing, and that's I need to adjust this variable that I created, world2door closed, because after the door has been clicked on, I need that to be set to a value of false, meaning that the door is now already open. So let's go ahead and test this and see if it's working, and I'm going to watch my door2closed variable so I can see what's going on. Let's hit play. we enter the door, and we can see that the door is closed, and when I click on it, the door opens. So we're in good shape here. The trouble is, I've got a big bug that this is going to create. If I hit play, and I click kind of here in the center of the door, where the mouse will be over not only this front door, but also the door that's behind it in the screen we can't see, if I click once, see my door is automatically opening. I didn't only click the button once there. If I click the door up here, where the mouse isn't over this door, I don't have that bug. But if I hit play, and click somewhere here where the mouse is immediately over the door that's on the following screen, I can see that the door immediately opens up. So that right there is a fairly common bug, particularly when you're making point-and-click adventure games in Alice. But we're going to go ahead and end episode number 6 right here. And episode number 7, we will solve that bug and make sure that not only does it not affect the transition from screen 1 to 2, but we're also going to prevent it from happening in any of our future screen transitions as well. So recognize that there is a bug right here, and if you're playing this on your own, you might see that happen, but it is known, and we know why it's happening. We just have to go through and fix it. But of course, that will be episode number 7. So thank you so much for watching the Let's Build Shadowgate series. As always, if you have any questions about anything that you've seen here, why something works, or something is working for me that's not working for you, you are welcome to leave those in the comments, and I will certainly help you out any way that I can. So thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time.